Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. We are just over an hour away from puck drop. Game 6, Leafs-Sens, Battle of Ontario, right here on TSN Radio. And Jonas Siegel will join us from the rink in about a half an hour. Pierre LeBrun is in Colorado for Game 6, Avs Stars tonight. You got the Oilers, Game 6. What a night, man. 4 games. Yeah. You can't beat it. You can't beat it tonight.
Lots of couching.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it'll be good games for sure.
It will be.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm more anxious. Like, I always wait as a fan. You know, you're about 15 minutes out and you're going, okay, how is this going to unfold tonight? And you're anxious. You have no control. You're just sitting on your couch or wherever you're consuming the game. But as a player, that was the biggest set of nerves for me, is trying to figure out how it's going to go that night. You can feel great. There were times where I feel amazing. And you get out on the ice and it just doesn't go your way. Like, it just, you know, bad bounces, timing, you know, bad penalty out of nowhere from a teammate. Like, stuff, you know, controls the narrative and the direction of how it goes. That was the biggest source of anxiety for a player leading into it, is the building's popping, all of that. You want to get through the anthems. The anthems seem to take forever, even though it's only one anthem here tonight. But it just, you want to get into the game and go, how's this going to go? And to me, that's the biggest source of anxiety. I don't know what it's like for, you know, I know what I am as a fan now watching it. I don't have that much anxiety, but a fan of one of these teams, a diehard fan, like, when does the anxiety start? Is it never stop? Really?
I'm not sure it ever stops, quite frankly. Yeah. I think that's the beauty of the playoffs. It's such a unique experience. You know, there's 8 fan bases in the NHL dealing with it, 4 in the NBA, because you got 2 Game 6s in that, on that side of things, right? The Knicks and the Pistons and the Clippers and the Nuggets tonight. So especially when it gets to this point where it's survival mode. You know, Game 1, I think most people breathe easy. I'm not talking about the players, but I'm talking about just, you know, you go into the building, all right, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Let's see how it plays out, but you can always recover. It's once you've planted the seeds on a series, and this one, the Leafs-Sens one in particular, has been, it's been pretty fascinating because we've had 3 overtimes.
Yeah.
We had a 3-0 series lead, and that feels like an eternity ago. Like, honestly, it feels like that just didn't happen. Like, this is what most Leaf fans have experienced against the Bruins, against the Lightning, is series like this, where it always goes 6, it always goes 7, it always goes, you know, deeper into the series, and that's when you really start to get anxious. And, like, from my standpoint, I am very curious to see, how certain players play tonight, how they look, how they perform, because it's just a massive opportunity, because you rarely get them when you really think about it. Right. You know, when you consider what we talk about all the time, we're in the eye of the storm. Let's say, you know, it doesn't go well for the Leafs over the next couple of games. We're going to talk about it for the next 12 months. Yeah. What happens next time they get there? Well, you're here now. Like, we've spent the last 12 months talking about what are you going to do when you get back here? Yeah. How are you going to react to it? What's it going to mean come playoff time? And that, I think, is the beauty of it, that you have the payoff of the experience, that you're in it and you want to see how they react. And I think there's different layers to it. I think the goaltenders, as we always acknowledge, it goes without saying, they're going to factor in significantly. Yep. There's no 100%. Hiding if you're a goaltender. You have to play well. You have to play well. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect or great. You have to play well. If one of these guys plays poorly tonight, their team is going to lose. That's likely what happens. But then you push the goalies aside. You know, for me, the pecking orders, I start with Matthews. Like, I've been particularly focused on him the last couple of days because I think he's worthy of it. He's the best player. He has the most at stake in terms of building legacies because of where he already ranks. He's won a Hart, all these Rockets. Maybe he's going to be the greatest American player of all time, greatest Maple Leaf of all time. He's got to do it in these. He's got 2 months here to chip away at that, right? And it starts tonight. So I look at Matthews first and foremost, and then I would get to Nylander. I'd get to Morgan Riley. I think has got to be a big part of this. Been here for a long time. Got to have the best game of his series tonight. But yeah, the anxiety's there, but that's what makes it so great. If you didn't care, you wouldn't tune into the same extent.
No,
right?
I get
it's
it.
a thing of beauty tonight.
Yeah, it's just this last little, the time leading up to it, that's where people get fired up about it.
And again, there's going to be nerves on both sides.
Really?
Like I don't think you can look past the difference tonight in Ottawa compared to Game 4.
Right.
Game 4 was, come on, win once, please. Now it's, hey, you got to win here because you could win the series. It is rapidly changed. Here's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider. Who do you think would be more nervous tonight? Which dressing room more nervous, the Maple Leafs or the Ottawa Senators?
I think you make a good point, Brian, about the Sens having nerves too, because the home crowd, I just got a bunch of texts from different people I know who were at the game who said way less blue right now from what they're seeing there than compared to Game 4. So, looks like the fans have reclaimed their building. But, the fact that Ottawa's back in this series, I think, will a little pit in their stomach, too, in this. But, I was knowing I was going to do this hit. I've been thinking about this today. I don't know what you guys think. But, part of why I think the drama is so heightened is because it was 3-0, and I know that's Captain Obvious, but my point is there are 3 overtime games in this series, and if you change the sequence of events and give Ottawa an earlier win and give the Leafs maybe the last overtime game, like 2-1 and then 3-2, and the Leafs are a better team than 3 out of 5. I don't think we're where we are right now. It's the fact that it was 3-0 and the Senators are trying to pull off the reverse sweep, combined with the playoff demons of the Leafs, has led to a heightened sense of panic, I think, in Leaf Nation. But again, this easily could have been 2-1 after Game 3, based on play. And so I don't know what the hockey gods are doing to Leaf fans, but I think that's why we're where we are right now in terms of all the hysteria that I could sense from a couple of time zones away here.
Yeah. So Pierre, if you want to single out maybe one guy on each team that you would circle tonight that either would be your X factor or, have an opportunity to maybe, be a legendary for your organization, for your team. Is it just the obvious? It's Brady and it's Matthews, or are you looking deeper than that?
Yeah, it is Matthews for sure for the Leafs, and because I think that just the criticism again that him and Marner have taken the last few days. It's his first year as captain. I think this is where you plant your flag. Remember his first NHL game, 4 goals in that building. I think tonight you plant your flag if you're 34 and say enough of this. So I expect a big game from him. I think for the Senators, I'm going to go away from Brady just because he's done so much here in this series. And I'm going to give you Stolarz because I think that for the Senators to tie this series, I think they're going to have to do a little more at 5-on-5, and I'm looking at him. So that'd be the guy for Ottawa for me.
With Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider, you're in Colorado for Game 6 tonight. It's pretty incredible. Noodles and I were doing a little mini Jerry's last hour on how many of these series make it to Saturday because they're all scheduled to play Game 7 on Saturday. And that would include Colorado, Dallas, Leafs-Sens tonight, Minnesota, Vegas, and then L.A., in Edmonton. Where do you want to give us a prediction on how many of these series make it to Game 7?
I think 2 of them go to 7, and I think my series is one of them. I have 2 flights booked, one to go home tomorrow and one to go to Dallas, and I think there's a 75% chance I'm going to Dallas because anything that would make my life easier never happens, is my experience. I've been gone since April 18th, and I've got a couple of kids. I can't wait to see again at home. But no, I think it's going 7. This is exactly the series that I thought I would get, and so I really wanted to come out here. I think the winner of this series in the West could go on to the Cup final. I really do. And I just think Colorado's going to tie this tonight and give us more of what we saw in Game 4 here on home ice when they really destroyed Dallas, and then that'll set up a Game 7. But I will say this: this is an interesting last 24 hours here in Denver. I mean, this is a Colorado team that was the most aggressive of any playoff team in the league in terms of remaking their roster over the last 8 months. They put a lot of their chips in the middle here. And there's a chance that, if not tonight, maybe Saturday, that they lose out in the first round which will put them in a position where they will have won one playoff series since winning the Cup in 22. And I got to tell you, I remember leaving the building in Tampa on June 22 after this core won their first Cup. I remember turning to someone and saying, "This is like hold on to your hat here, because this team's about to go multiple on us here with this core." I just remember thinking, they're the next Tampa, they're the next Chicago. This team's going to win 3 Cups in 6 years. It's just, Landeskog, Rantanen, McKinnon, Makar, Nichushkin. I just felt they were opening a door that year. And there's all kinds of reasons why it hasn't happened. I mean, we know about Landeskog being gone 3 years and Nichushkin not finishing back-to-back playoff years and what he went through. Rantanen's been traded now. There's all kinds of reasons. But if I put you back in time with you guys, I'm sure you had similar thoughts about this team here in Denver. 100%. And so if they lose tonight, especially tonight at home where they lost in Game 6 last year to this same Dallas team, there's going to be some interesting questions being asked, I think, about a team that on paper we keep looking at saying, all right, this is the year. And it hasn't happened in a while here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they respond to that kind of pressure tonight.
I agree. I think, we in the last hour, the 4 o'clock hour, we were talking about Tampa and just running up against a Florida team. And same type of thing, Kucherov not scoring in his last 15 playoff games. Vasilevsky not being good in his last 3, I guess, playoffs. Lots of question marks in Tampa. And if Colorado loses tonight, same type of questions when you're looking at it. When you have such, some of the best players on the planet to build around, it's unfortunate that you run up some of these Stanley Cup potential, contenders are out in the first round. The last couple games, Pierre, in that series have kind of been blowout wins. When you look at it, it's lopsided too. Lopsided last game where the goalie gets pulled. The previous one lopsided where the goalie gets pulled. Do you get a sense that maybe this is just going to be a tighter game, more of a a 3-2 type of battle, maybe some overtime or something like that?
Oh, don't you be saying that overtime word when I have to write a post-game column here, Noodles.
Apologies.
Don't you be doing that to me.
Listen, I left the studio at 1:40 it was last night after a late, for some reason, Winnipeg St. Louis game started at 9, whatever. It felt like it started at midnight, whatever it was. But yes, I don't want to jinx it.
No, I do think it's going to be back to that, because that's what we had in the series until 4 and 5 when each team clobbered each other. And the 2 goalie pulls, by the way, I'm sure you know this, given that you're part of the fraternity, but they weren't. That was not performance-based. The coach in each case just wanted them to get a break for the next game and given the score. Yeah, I think we're going back to a close game. There's a couple of things here. Miro Heiskanen skated again today for Dallas, but Pete DeBoer said he was not a gopher today. It's been sort of the common thought among a lot of us here covering the series that the Stars were just going to break the glass in case of emergency. So I think they were always going to try and put him back in there once their season was on the line themselves, and it hasn't been yet. They're up 3-2. So I think if the Stars lose tonight and head home, I think you might potentially see Heiskanen on Saturday. And in the meantime, Jason Robertson was updated to go from week to week to day by Pete DeBoer today. And so this is the other thing that's interesting to me. It reminds me a lot of Edmonton. Dallas and Edmonton, the parallels are unreal, which is just give us enough time on the calendar to somehow get through this first round and then watch out. It feels so similar for Dallas and Edmonton, because in both cases, in the Oilers' last win in Game 5 and in the Stars' last win in Game 5, Pete DeBoer called it their best performance in 5 weeks, Dallas, and we know that the Oilers felt the same way about their win in L.A. Watch out. I mean, don't give these teams too much rope with the pedigree they have. And if the Stars can somehow get to the second round without having needed to bring back Miro Heiskanen yet, holy smokes. I mean, I got to say that path looks pretty good for them. But again, I think we're going to 7 in this series.
With Pierre LeBrun, we couldn't get to 6 for the Montreal Canadiens. They couldn't get past Washington last night. They've had a remarkable season, but I'm curious to see what the reaction to this series will be, because they would not be, if they do go down this road, would not be the first team to look at a scenario like the one we just witnessed and say, we need way more size. We need toughness. We can't allow the opponent like Washington to bully us. But that might deviate from their plan, in terms of building and bringing in kids and how they draft and how they develop. I guess what I'm going to ask you, or what I am asking you, Pierre, is do you think that 5-game series against Washington changes how they build starting this summer in Montreal?
I don't think it will. I think the idea that Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon had about their next step here with this team is still what they're going to look at, Brian. And yeah, they were definitely physically intimidated in that series, but I don't think that's the reason they lost. They lost because they were the inferior team, and that's fine, 8-1. Their number one need, and it also was glaring in that series, is they need a second-line center. And they were mostly a one-line team, 5-on-5 in that series. A really good top line, of course, led by Suzuki, but they need to go find another top 6 center in his mid-20s, and that's going to be the priority for Kent Hughes, I think, in that front office. Easier said than done, because, by the way, it's also a big need for the Vancouver Canucks, same type of player, big need for the Calgary Flames. So it's going to find that player is going to be difficult, all of which is why it's still perplexing to me that the Sabres found it necessary to trade Dylan Cousins at the trade deadline, not wait till the summer, by the way, because I think that there could have been an unbelievable auction for Dylan Cousins if the Sabres were still intent on moving him, but good for Ottawa for jumping ahead of the train on that one. But no, I think the Habs needs will stay the same, Brian. I think one of the concerns I would have if I were the Habs is how much younger they're going to get, because Yoel Armia's a UFA, Christian Dvorak's a UFA, David Savard just retired. There's a chance they were already the youngest team to make the playoffs. They could be even younger come opening night next fall.
Yeah, and I mean, when you get a taste of playoffs like that, and you can look at your team and really do a ground assessment. And that's one thing that I think Montreal got a little taste of is, some of these young guys push through. I think Leighton Hudson's a star in the making. And, Montembeault, missing him, I didn't think, how do you pronounce is it Dobush?
Dobush. Yeah.
Yeah, I butcher his name, but I didn't think it's unfair to ask him to stand on his head. Like, I think Montembeault's their guy, and the injury really hurt them. But it's a positive in Montreal, if you ask me, because you can see what needs to be done now to get the team to the next level, and you can address it through free agency, and you've got some currency to do that. And there's some big decisions. The biggest one, I'll just put a bow on Montreal, Pierre, Patrik Laine. Like, he's a really, really polarizing guy, and we discussed him at length yesterday. He's got another year on his deal at 7, but not healthy scratch, but benched and then injury, or I don't know what's going on there. But is he a guy that could get pushed out, or they're going to maybe be patient with him for another year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, listen, I don't think the market, the reality is I don't think there's not much of a market for him at that salary, although he only has a year left on his deal. He really became a power play player only for them. I mean, he was a liability defensively, 5-on-5, great attitude, I'm told, and everything else, but it's just his skill set has eroded. And the interesting thing is you got a real glimpse of the immediate future with Laine out. It was Demidov that went and took his place on the first power play. And suddenly you had, a Caulfield one-timer on one side and then the Demidov one-timer on the other side. Woof, that was pretty interesting for Montreal to look at as far as their future. So I don't even know what Laine does best. I don't even know if that's secure when you look at how Demidov looked on that fireplace. So some interesting decisions there with him as well, for sure. I agree. And you mentioned the goaltending. Don't forget Fowler. Down the road here for Montreal. I mean, there's so much to be excited about. I think if you're a Habs fan, if you can really back up and look at the big picture over the next decade, I think they're going to be one of the teams vying for being one of the best teams in the East if they continue to get it right with each move. But I said this in my tweet last night. Growth is not always linear in this league, and the tough part for that market is just because you made the playoffs this year and things kind of fell into place for you, it doesn't automatically mean that you're automatically in next year. And that doesn't mean that the plan isn't going the right way if that happens. But I think Habs fans better understand the the reality of just getting in this year way ahead of time, and yet nothing's given for next year, given how young this team is. And I don't know if that marketplace would stomach that too well if they don't get back in next year.
No, that is very true, man. They got a taste of it as well, and they probably would want to fast forward all the way to next October. Let's get going again if you're in Montreal. All right, Pierre, good luck with those 2 flight plans. We'll see where you end up landing tomorrow.
I expected 7 when I got into this series, so I'm zen. Don't worry, I'll be fine if Colorado wins tonight. All good.
All right, man. Enjoy it. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider, ahead of Colorado-Dallas tonight, Game 7. All right, well, in Ottawa, they'll be getting on the ice in the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Like Pierre said, you're seeing seemingly a lot more Sens fans. Like, there were a lot of Leaf fans, more Leaf fans Game 4. I wasn't surprised by that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of Sens fans were like, screw it, I'll just take the money. It's 3-0. I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
And now Sens fans naturally are like, no, I'm going, man.
This
going.
is more like Game 3. Like, this would be more, the crowd would be more like Game 3.
Definitely it will be. Definitely.
But, it'd be loud. It was exciting. They're pumped up for it. But again, it'd be, I don't know if nerves would be it'd be excitement. Like, I think you have to be excited to play in these scenarios. Like, not a lot of people get to, experience this. Game 6 in your own building, same type of thing. Leafs fans have experienced Game 7s and Game 7s on the road and all of that. But it just, in the end, like, you forget as a fan experience, it's nice to, hey, I was in the building. Hey, I was there or whatever. Like, these are the types of memories that are made, right? Like,
for sure. Absolutely. And I have stumbled across a picture of someone in a Jeff O'Neill Maple Leaf jersey
saw that.
walking into the arena.
Into the hornet's nest.
Yes.
You walk. That's the toughest part.
Like, the O-Dog is going to take shrapnel tonight because he's wearing an O'Neill jersey.
I know. It's
love
weird. I love it, but it just – and I always – and regardless of any building you go into, you should never, ever be physically assaulted, anything like that. But you see sometimes – where fans are like, yeah, I wouldn't go, where is it? The LA Raiders. Remember that used to be that stadium, and it was like,
crazy,
I had a buddy,
lunatics.
Yeah, I had a buddy there, like, who was a fan of the opposing team. He's like, I'm not wearing that jersey. Like, I'll get physically assaulted. Like, certain buildings have that aura about them. It's like, you don't mess with that. Isn't Philadelphia like they've got the
Philly's
jail
got
underneath the stands there? Like,
and you just get fan bases that are loud. Like, for the most part, Canadians. Toronto, Ottawa. Yes, you put your stake in the ground for your team, for your city, whatever. You're proud, But we don't have, generally speaking, that type of approach.
Buffoonery.
Yeah, where if you get like New York versus Boston, it's just like 2 hard-headed, crazy fans that are looking for it. And same thing in California. Like, LA and San Fran is as bad as it gets. Like, Giants and Dodgers fans, they like, literally, they're killing each other at times. Like, it gets to the point where it's like, what is happening with people out there? But I'm not anticipating that tonight. I hope not tonight. Just go and have a good time. But
enjoy it. Cheer for your team. But like, I always wondered that. Like, tonight's a Thursday night. There's people that have like really good jobs that put that jersey on, and if they do something stupid because they have 10 beer, it like changes their life. You know what I mean? Like,
well, look at the Pirates game yesterday at PNC. A guy fell over the outfield fence, man.
I didn't follow up on that. I hope that they survived.
I believe he survived. The last I read of him, he was not in good shape, clearly, and
right.
It reads as if maybe he had been doing what you would think he had been doing, but I don't know that definitively. But scary stuff. But that's a completely different story. That's self-inflicted. But the O-Dog is represented, the Jeff O'Neill Maple Leaf jersey, which again is funny because Leaf fans, like Sens fans, will be chirping the O-Dog because his jersey's there. But that's also a cool part of the experience in the playoffs. You see way more jerseys. I see it at my kid's school every morning. I saw a Tucker jersey this morning. I've seen a Danny Markov throwback.
Well, that's what we should be asking us. What's the most random? Is an Aki Berg jersey out there tonight? Like, is there I don't know. Like,
I want to see an
Daniel
Aki Berg.
Winnick, a Daniel Winnick jersey.
Winnick. Like, that'd be a good one.
Name the most random. Like, it isn't even like tied. Now, Winnick played with Matthews, and that we should go to that first year where they played and go through the roster and be like, is there somebody with a, I don't know. Who would be the most random player?
I couldn't even give you an example of who.
Callie Rosen jersey.
That would probably be an example of it. Yeah,
right.
Is someone like that, like a 6th or 7th defenseman, Travis Dermott or something like that.
Well, yeah,
because the famous ones are famous ones.
Right.
Like again, I saw a Tucker jersey today. There's a million of those in Toronto. There's a million Sundins and Clarks and Gilmores.
I got one for you. Marty Marincin.
Yes. Number 52, if I can recall correctly.
See, I'm looking at Matthews' first year and going through it. There's Bosey and Gardner and Connor Brown and Zaitsev and Komarov and Hyman and Riley and that. But Matt Hunwick.
Matt Hunwick. Yes, left shot Matt Hunwick. Babcock loved him.
Yeah. Here's a crazy one, though, and he's still having tremendous success in Russia. Do you get that? Did you know who that would be?
Who is still it's not Freddie the Goat, is it?
He's the all-time leading scorer. It's Joshua Levo.
Josh Levo, that's right. He is the Canadian Ovechkin playing in Russia. He's the OV of the KHL. The guy's dominant. Remember, he had no teeth. He was missing one tooth. I don't think he ever played with a mouth guard.
No, he had 49 goals last year for UFA.
Wow.
And he's still playing.
That's rock star stuff, man. How old would he be?
He's
now?
31, though. He seems like he's a lot older. On that team, Frankie Corrado, Antoine Bibeau.
There you go. All right, Frank. We need a Corrado jersey in the house tonight.
There you go, Frankie Corrado jersey.
Antoine Bibeau. Tony
Remember
Bibeau.
him?
Is he a goalie?
Yes, he played 2 games. It was the goalies were Bibeau, Anderson, McElhenney, and Jerry Enroth. Remember Jonas Enroth?
Oh,
right?
That's right. Did they pick him up at the deadline for depth?
I can't remember.
He only played 4 or 5 games.
He played 6 games that year. Bibeau played 2. So Bibeau was their starter in the minors, and I think Enroth came in for some reason. But Freddie Anderson played 66, and Curtis McElhenney played 14.
Wow, 66 starts. That's wild. Actually, Enroth may have started the year as the backup, and then they went to get McElhenney, I think. I think McElhenney they got at the deadline.
Well, was it McElhenney that made that left toe save against Sid and Pittsburgh
to
help them make the playoffs?
Yep.
Right,
3-2 game, I believe. You're right. Connor Brown scored the winner. I'll never forget that, man.
Yeah,
that's when it was just like, here we go. Watch what's about to happen. Because the next night, remember, they played Columbus.
Yeah,
for the chance to, if they beat Columbus, they would have played Ottawa in that first round.
And they lost.
And they lost. And Columbus wasn't playing for anything. And then they ended up, as the first or second wild card and playing Washington, and we know what happened. Because they had to cross over, right?
Yeah.
They were wild cards, so they went over to the other division.
Yeah.
But if they had won that game, they would have played Ottawa, a Battle of Ontario back then.
We would have had a Battle of Ontario 9 years ago.
That's right. But here we are now.
Yeah, exactly.
Game 6 tonight, right here on TSN Radio. We will head to Ottawa, catch up with Jonas Siegel. His take on Max Pacioretty playing on the left side with John Tavares and William Nylander tonight. And what is his pecking order of importance? Who has to step up the most? We'll get to that next. All right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel later in the hour. Leafs-Sens tonight, Game 6. No lineup changes in terms of players coming in or out of the lineup, but there are some line changes. Max Pacioretty on the second line with John Tavares and William Nylander. I'm surprised. I thought it was more likely Pacioretty was going to come out of the lineup and they were going to put Nick Robertson in. But not only is Pacioretty staying in the lineup, he's getting a bigger assignment. To chat about it, here's our main man, Jonas Siegel from The Athletic, who's ready for the game tonight. What do you make of that decision, Jonas? Max Pacioretty getting the Tavares assignment.
I just would have liked to have seen it earlier in the series. Now, they would have said, Pacioretty's been out 2 months. You're going to ask him to come back and play on the second line right away. But to me, it always felt like if you're going to play him, just play him where he's played best during the season. He spent a lot of time with Tavares and Nylander early on, and I think they had some moments. And if you look at some of the numbers early on, they're pretty good. And you could see that his IQ, his skill, his size, it all kind of fit well with those guys. And it was pretty clear pretty quickly that the other options weren't working. Max Domi didn't work. Pontus Holmberg, I thought they stuck with too long. So I've been saying to myself that I think he's going to have, Pacioretty is going to have some sort of moment in these playoffs. And maybe tonight is the night.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. Go ahead, Noodles.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, Jonas. And here, my argument with it is on the road. Sometimes you need to match up a little bit heavier body. I thought Holmberg is a guy who's trying to draw penalties, and he's a little bit of an agitator, but he's not a big guy, like physically. And, when Pacioretty was at the height of his game, now it's not there yet, but if he still has that physical mentality on the road, winning loose puck battles, the two players that he plays with, you get them the puck and you go to the net. That's kind of the mindset that has to be, and that's what gave him success. Do you think that's where Chief was trying to go with this Pacioretty moving up with them?
Yeah, and he mentioned the size, and I remember just thinking back to like those early days in the season where down low especially, like you could feel his physicality being a difference maker for them. And like you said, like he's at the net. Like I remember there was one goal, I don't know why I remember it, but I think he scored it against Anaheim, maybe in Toronto. And he was at the net, and Tavares found him, and it was just the kind of goal that I could see them scoring tonight. And like they need another line to get going. Like this whole series, to me, it felt like it's just kind of been Nyes, Matthews, Marner, and they've kind of been good in pockets and not good in sustained periods. And if they can get that Nylander, Tavares, Pacioretty combo to give them something, that's going to be important because you look at the other two lines, and I just don't know that they're going to get any offense from those two groups.
Yeah, well, that's the truth. I mean, I've liked the Lawton line, but they're not scoring. They're not really in danger of scoring. Like the Lawton and Yarncroke and Lorentz, they've played well and they've pushed play and they've been someone that's been reliable. He's starting games with them, and I'm curious what you think would be the best option for Berube tonight. You got to put the game sheet in first. Are you starting the Matthews line? What do you think the plan is?
So I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't love like starting game 5. I think he started that last game with them.
Yes, he did.
And then he went back to them to start the third period. I'm thinking like, man, like this is like kind of go time. Like it's cool. Like that line is, you're right. Like they've been effective in what they do, but like, let's go. Like if you're the Leafs, like you need that Matthews line to come out flying. I would start them tonight. I would start them in the second. I'd start them in the third. Like they need that group to be difference makers. And obviously, like we talked a lot about Matthews and Marner, and like they need those guys to be difference makers in games like this. This is why they're built the way that they're built. I just roll with those guys as much as possible. And I would honestly, like, I think they should be playing those guys even more than they have.
That's where I was going to go, Jonas. Would you shorten the bench or find an extra shift or find some extra minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I and even like some situations, like you think to that third line, the way it's composed right now with Holmberg, McMahon, and Domi. So maybe for like the odd offensive zone draw, maybe throw Nylander out there. Maybe just look for opportunities to get those guys extra ice, because like you look through some of these games and it's like they're rolling 4 lines, and like Matthews and Marner and Nylander especially, like he's been playing not heavy minutes in this series. And it's like, now is the time. Like they've played those guys. Remember some of the regular season games we talked about, and it's like Marner's at 25 minutes and Matthews is at 26 minutes. I remember there was a game against, I think, San Jose, where some of those guys played upwards of 25 minutes. And it's like, now they're in the playoffs and they're playing them 21, 20, 19. Like it doesn't make sense to me, especially if they get down. They should be pushing those guys to end the series, because like you just don't want this, if you're the Leafs, to get back to 7.
No, you most certainly
Obviously,
don't.
Right?
Yeah, most certainly you do not want that. Yet, it'll be interesting to see how Berube handles it tonight, because you've got to believe your best. Everyone's going to be ready to play, and you go into every game, I'm sure, anticipating that and hoping for that. But it's not always the case. And he took offense to the core four question. It's a team. Well, if it's a team and your best players aren't playing well, then maybe they shouldn't play that much. Like the other night, after Willie dogged that back check, he had him out there late. Get him. Like, why not? Maybe that was an opportunity to say, if it's a team and not a core 4, then if you're not going to pull your weight, why are you guaranteed ice time? And that ship may have sailed, because now we're into Game 6 and you need your best players. But there's some inconsistency there. You can't scoff at core 4 and then just play them together every single game all the time and never move off it.
See, but I don't think like the playoffs is the time to send messages.
I understand.
When,
I understand.
Right? Like, and they can't generate goals. Like, you're right. It's not really been like a meritocracy throughout the year. Like, certain players have not played well, have played. Certain players have. Like, Nick Robertson is 7th on the team in goals. He's not playing. And I get the rationale for not playing him. they need some of these other guys, like we talk about the star players, they need the odd contribution, whether it's from, like Bobby McMahon scored 20 goals during the year. Like we talked about, like they have 6 guys who can score. He was one of them, and he's had a difficult postseason. So, like, it's a lot about the Stars, obviously, but if they can get some contributions like they got earlier in the series, Max Domi overtime winner, Simon Benoit overtime winner, obviously that will go a long way too. And the goalie. I don't know much about goalies, apparently, but
you sure do.
I
sure do.
I still owe you an apology, but I still.
Vasilevsky wasn't great.
He was not great, and I agree. But I had this saying the other day, and I was trying not to screw it up. I don't know if you heard me say it, Jonas, where I was like, Jonas wouldn't know goaltending something when it came to his ass, if his hat, it didn't have his hat in his back pocket. And I nailed it. I was laughing about it, but then I was like, I owe Jonas an apology because that was too extreme. But that's where I was going to go. Is Anthony Stolarz? Have you noticed anything different? Is because honestly, I haven't. There's screenshots, there's seeing eye shots, but I didn't think 2 games ago he had his A game. A couple pucks slid through him, that Pinto breakaway where maybe he gets a bounce and it goes out the other side. But keep in mind, this is his first, game 6, high pressure, on the road type of thing. How has he handled it? Just the demeanor and watching him in person.
So I will just say in the dressing room this morning, it felt a little tense around him, but what does that mean? Does that mean anything? I'm more curious to see what you and I have talked a lot about is how is he going to continue to handle this workload? Because this is 6 starts now in 11 days. The most starts that he started during 1 month during the regular season was 7. And this is 6 in 11 days. So, and you've kind of felt like as the series has gone on, he hasn't been bad, but he's not been as sharp as he was in game 1. And it was like, you look at his regular season again, it's like every start he had for the most part was like 2-3 days rest. Like it was a lot of 3 days rest. And now this is basically every other night. So this is a big game for him because like if it doesn't go well for him, you know what you're going to be talking about tomorrow. Like if he gives up 4 and they lose 4-1, you might be talking about like, should they go to Joseph Woll in game 7? Now, I think that would probably be nuts, but it's not out of the question that we're talking about it tomorrow if it doesn't go well for Stolarz.
Yeah, and that's the that's a part of the conversation, I would say, the last couple of days that really has not been brought up because they didn't lose the other night because of Stolarz. I mean, the first goal was a C&I shot. You'd like him to have that. It's a shot from the point. You'd like him to have it, but he didn't. And then the 2-on-1 by Cousins, it's a great pass, and Cousins gets it off and gets it up. It's a very difficult one to stop. And then 2 empty netters. So they didn't score. So it wasn't Stolarz. The game before was not his best game. But it has been more about, the team, the lack of intensity. I think the effort in Game 5, the fact that the best players, again, couldn't get on the game sheet. But that Stolarz story and the goaltending story is kind of hovering in the background where he can quiet that down quickly, right, Noodles? Like, he plays a great game tonight. He's a hero that maybe you could argue, maybe the MVP of the series. Who knows? We'll see if and when they win this thing. But as Jonas points out, and it's 100% valid, if it gets leaky, then you're like, uh-oh, what's happening here with a completely different component of the team we haven't been focusing on, over the last couple of days. So I hope he has himself a night because you're right, Jonas. I think it would be completely unfair to Joseph Woll to just throw him in for Game 7.
I would argue right now, I don't know if there's a scenario where Woll starts unless there's an injury. Like that would be – because even if Stolarz is no good and gets pulled tonight – you go back to him, unless you know what I mean. Like
he's been so good, and Woll hasn't been playing.
I just don't know if they lose tonight. I don't see a scenario that Woll is starting unless there's an injury. But maybe I'm wrong on this. Like there's been such crazy storylines in the playoffs. And where were we a year ago? Where it's like Game 7 and Jerry Samsonov comes out. Right, yeah. Like it's just.
But you're right, though. Samsonov wasn't, right, Jonas? Like you were there. It was more like we got to go to Woll because you can't keep playing Samsonov. Couldn't do it.
Well, and then remember what happened before Game 7? It's like, Woll can't play. I just I kind of wonder. Like you go back to Game 5. and I'm sure you guys felt this, like it felt this way in the building. It just felt like every chance they were getting early on, Allmark was on. And then when they didn't score with those opportunities, especially on that first power play, it's like, oh man, this could be one of those games where Allmark just outduels Stolarz. And so I wonder if it ends up being another game like that where Stolarz kind of just has to match Allmark, because you look at the numbers and like you can see it on the ice. Allmark's been the better goalie, wouldn't you say? Like for the series, if you're picking who's been the better guy, like early on it was Stolarz, and gradually Allmark has just kind of taken it.
Well, yeah. I mean, he is. I watched Travis Green's media. I'm not sure if you were there this morning on it, but somebody asked him, "Is like, how do you feel about the elephant in the room now?" It was tongue in cheek, and he said, "Listen, I've watched this guy all year. I know what he's capable of, and I've seen him go through these stretches where." He has like some bumps in the road, and then he gets into a groove and he rattles off some wins. And that's kind of what I think Ottawa is hoping, is if this guy can have another really strong performance, he gives them an opportunity to be in this game. And he needs to. Honestly, he had a great game last game. He's got to be better tonight, which is, that's as the series gets deeper and for more and more stakes, the goaltender is going to be under the magnifying glass no matter what, because it's, that's why it's interesting with Stolarz. Like, we talk about Ottawa being very green. Stolarz in the net is very green because he's going through this process for the first time at 31 years old.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Can I add one thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just going to add as you were talking, to me, with everything you're saying with Allmark, to me, like maybe the sneaky key for the Leafs tonight might be their power play, because you remember early in the series, that was basically the difference in the first three games, is their power play was just like automatic. And you think back to last game and that first power play they got, they were all over it. Like I think they had 5 shots on 6 attempts in like a minute, and then Nyes took a penalty, it was over. And then you go to that third power play, I think it was, that they had, and they just looked really tight. And you could tell that no one wanted to beat the clock. It wasn't moving crisply. It wasn't moving quickly. And so suddenly they had an opportunity to get themselves back in the game, and it was just gone. And so I wonder if the power play is the thing for whether it's Marner, whether it's Matthews, that can kind of get them in this game and put them over the top.
Well, we're getting close. About 20 minutes from puck drop. Enjoy it there, Jonas. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks, boys.
There he is, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic.
Jonas.
It's interesting his kind of read on Stolarz, and again, it had gone so well through 3 games, and it's not that it's been poor for him, but it's now you're in a different world, man. You lost a couple in a row. Let's see what you got.
This is a guy who had won 12 games in a row, leading. Like you add the 3 in, and he ended the season on whatever it was, 8 or 9 win game streak, right? And then you lose a couple, and it's like, okay, you got to get it back. And again, he's not on an island. He has to, the team works hand in hand with him. It's kind of the argument I had with Connor Hellebuck. Hellebuck, he works well hand in hand with the team, and when the team's out to lunch, he's got to bail them out, and he wasn't in those 2 games. You'll see in a pressure-packed situation, Stolarz has to give them an opportunity to win tonight. And that's the biggest, that's his biggest job tonight. Give him an opportunity.
Put them in a position to win.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back with our best bets. Tee up the game one more time. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Game 6 tonight. We got 4 of them in the NHL, 2 of them in the NBA. We got the Jays and the Red Sox tonight. The Jays bats are alive. Finally got a win. Finally put more than 4 runs on the board. Bedlam downtown tonight. Not the best weather, but all the best. Here are the best bets, powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Here's what we're riding with as a crew here, okay? Leafs to win. Nylander to record 3+ shots on goal. Matthews to score at least 1 point. Mitch Marner to score at least 1 point. Playing the hits. Leafs have got to get it done. Their best players have got to be the best players on the ice tonight. Let's see that happen. Best bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every Stanley Cup playoff game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 19+, physically located in Ontario. One way or another, we're breaking down the game tomorrow. Yep. One way or the other. It's going to be one tune or the other tune. We'll see what happens here. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.